Personal Story segment tonight all over the USA. The acquittal of George Zimmerman being discussed among African Americans. Joining us now from Los Angeles, attorney and radio talk show host Ebony Williams. Here in the New York studio, Reverend Jock DeGroff and Fox News analyst. Reverend, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Councilor Parks. Do you believe the trial was fair?
I believe it was fair, and I accept their verdict. But verdicts have consequences. And short of rioting and demonstrating in the streets, the African American community and other communities have options also to affect consequences for change.
But what about the my assertion that nobody really knows what happened that night except Zimmerman? So why would African Americans assume that Zimmerman is guilty? Why would they assume that?
Well, I'm saying, if you start from the premise that you accept the verdict, it doesn't matter. But you have to not be prepared to accept that as the final word.
Why not?
Because I don't accept that, and I don't believe that.
What's the final word? If it isn't the jury, what's the final word?
Because we've seen other verdicts. Trayvon Martin is the latest victim, and we've seen other verdicts. And so what we have to do is put pressure on to change the system.
What system? What would you change?
So, first of all, I would tell anyone I know to skip Florida if your national convention is going to be there.
So you
skip
don't like
Disney World. Skip family reunions. Don't
Why
go
would
to
you
Florida.
skip Florida?
Because it was the state of Florida versus Zimmerman. The state, I believe, has failed and has created a climate where black children are in danger.
Because they didn't win the verdict? You don't
because black children, because the latest black, this is enough is enough. And unless and until we take some action to change the climate.
I don't understand what you want to change, but let me get to Ms. Williams.
But African Americans do.
Okay, well, maybe that's true, but I'm here and I want you to tell me what you want to change. Now, Ms. Williams, do you agree with the Reverend that something in the system has to change, and if so, what is it?
I agree with the Reverend that something in the system needs to change, but I also agree with you, Bill, that no one knows exactly what happened on the night that this young man lost his life. And what do I fault for us not knowing that and this really unsettling verdict? I fault the Florida statute that stand your ground. It's really problematic. It's highly controversial because it really undermines the legal system as we know it. It really
we understand that, but that's up to the state of Florida to revoke. Now, you say, well, all right, so you want the stand your ground law to be abolished or changed. All right, I understand that. I got that. Okay. What else? What else in the system do you want changed, Ebony?
Well, that's pretty much where I'll start and stop right now.
So that's it. Stand your ground. You don't like it. It led to this chaos, and now it's up to the state of Florida to do that.
Well, first of all, Bill, let's start with one part of your premise.
All right, go ahead.
And your premise was, and others, the premise of others, that race had nothing to do with this. There isn't anyone in America who could see a black man standing over with a pistol in his hand, standing over a dead white boy, who would think that that black man would go home.
Look, I don't...
Do you believe
that? These are hypotheticals. All I know is this, that the FBI investigated this guy Zimmerman, all right, pretty thoroughly. And they didn't find anything in his background that would have said he would have gone after a black man, all right?
Bill, I'm saying that blacks represent $1 trillion economy in this country.
Yes.
We have the muscle to change this situation.
But what do you want to change?
First of all, what Ebony said, I want to change that law.
Okay.
I want to change, but more importantly, it's been open season on black young men across the country.
Yeah, by other black young men.
No, but by the criminal justice system and the educational system.
That's not true.
Well,
I don't believe that for a second.
How do you explain the disparity?
Wait a minute. I'm going to have to explain that because he asked me. The disparity comes in high crime districts, okay, where police flood in to protect the citizens and make more arrests than they would make in low crime districts. That's how the disparity comes. And you know as well as I do, because we talked about it last week, that most black men are killed by other black men.
But the disparity is there's a disparity in sentencing, there is disparity in education gap, and there's a disparity in income
disparity
gap.
In
Those
education.
things affect the system that you're talking about.
All right.
They don't exist in a vacuum.
I don't mind you and other people who agree with you wanting to change the system for the better, but you got to get specific about it. Now, what did you want to say, Ebony?
Yeah, gentlemen, I wanted to address your issue, Bill, of fairness, right? One thing that we have to keep in mind is that this jury's verdict, which, by the way, for the record, I think was completely fair. I think George Zimmerman got the best defense money could buy, and we certainly saw that with Mark O'Mara and with Don West. However, a not guilty verdict is not the same as declaring George Zimmerman innocent. Let's be clear about that. What those 6 women did, and I did not envy their position at all, because they had a lot of evidence to consider and a lot of questions, that went unanswered, in my opinion, due to the state's lack of theory of the case. So what they did was they simply gave us a not guilty verdict, which tells us that the state did not meet its burden of proof.
And that's
but
the
it
system.
doesn't tell us that
That's
they
the system.
and that's the system,
You
and
can't
that's why we have
change
to
it
accept the
because
verdict.
that's what
change the system.
Absolutely.
No. That's the justice system's burden is the prosecution must prove the case beyond a reasonable
We
doubt.
have changed the system in America over the years. There were different premises. The black was 3/5 of a man.
You're talking
and then-
macro, I'm talking micro.
Well, no, I'm
here.
talking
I'm
American
talking
history.
okay.
I'm talking American history.
Yes. Well,
I gotta go,
I
guys.
see the
I
reference
gotta
point.
go. I gotta
but-
go.
Oh, okay.
All right, look.
Gosh.
The point of the matter is that I agree with you that things need to be improved in race area, but this case should not be the poster boy. It shouldn't. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along. Bernie Goldberg is upset by